Hello day. It's me and Brian Rucker, Coach Rokies.
Hey everybody.
What's going on? This is FitSpaz Radio. I'm Paul the producer, and tonight is another night we sit down and jive and talk and whatnot about fitness and junk and stuff, right?
Junk and stuff. That's my favorite.
Junk and stuff is kind of vernacular I learned from that character Fry on Futurama. Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah.
He says junk and stuff. So I decided when I heard that, I'm going to add that to my vocabulary and mode of speaking, because it's cool. What's up with you this week, Brian? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good weekend this last week.
Yeah?
We took a chance to go up the Manitou Incline.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I wish I could have done that with you.
I'm definitely going to go back and do it again. It's great.
Cool.
Like, challenged, kind of like push yourself, see how physically, capable you are after doing, all these programs. And I actually want to see after I've done, like, an intensive, like, cardio program, how much I improve, on being able to get up it.
I heard it was a really sharp incline. Is that correct?
It's kind of crazy how straight up it is because, regular hiking trail, at least have some back and forth up the mountain. They're kind of built.
The whole thing is just like,
Yeah, it's just straight up. Basically, it's an old railroad bed that they, like, took
Yeah, I
out
read
the tracks
that.
and all that. So
I did some reading about it because I was like, maybe I should go up and do it on my own this week, but I didn't get around to that.
it's crazy how much work it is getting up there. Even with cooler weather, I was sweating hardcore getting up that thing.
And coming down, did you take the steep path or did you take the longer, calm path I read about?
Just because there was so many people coming up, we thought it'd be harder to come back down, so we took the longer path down.
Much easier on your knees is what I heard, coming down the easier path.
I think yes and no.
Oh, really?
Because I was kind of had my 68-year-old dad and my son with me, so we were going a little bit slower pace.
I see.
Usually on a path like that, I'd like to run down the mountain. It's a little easier on my knees.
So contrasting the three generations, how did each of you do with that? Like, who was the king, who ruled it, and who was kind of on the low part of the totem
of course. I was actually so proud of my dad that, as old as he is, that he got up there and finished it. He actually didn't perform quite as well as he wanted to. And I think he actually...
But he made it the whole way.
He totally made it the whole way. He took a few more breaks than he expected that he wanted to.
That's what you mean by not
No,
performing.
yeah, he just... I think he wants to go do it again at some point just to prove that he can do better at it than he did.
How many breaks did you take doing this?
Well, because I wasn't going to leave them behind.
So you stuck with him every time he wanted to take a break. I see. Okay.
So there wasn't really any king of the mountain per se because we all took breaks at the same time.
It's pretty honorable of you to just stick with people like that instead of blazing ahead and being like, forget you guys.
I'll go back at some point and just do it for speed and see how fast I can get up it. But, this time was more about the experience.
But if you're going to do it for speed, does that mean you are going to go with your dad or not go with your dad? And what about your son as well?
I probably would let them go by themselves behind me.
You're just going to tell them your goal is to separate from the group and do the best you can do.
Well, and it probably would happen that way. Give my son another couple of years and he'd be passing me up. But
now, something of concern to me is, did you have cell phone coverage when you did this, or is it like no service?
It was crazy amount of cell phone coverage.
Really?
I actually did a periscope from the top of the mountain. Yeah, after we got
strange spot. Crazy world we live in that you can do that now.
Yeah, live broadcasting top of the mountain on the spur of the moment. I was so proud of my dad and my son for accomplishing that with me.
Did you guys hug on the periscope?
No, but I put my arm around both of them.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. Touching, Brian, touching. So what have we been up to this week? I started my third round of Body Beast. And yesterday I began with the chest and tries workout, build chest and tries. Oh, yeah. And I was like, dude, I'm getting sore because I felt like I'd been adapting and I wasn't getting quite sore like I wanted to, So I upped weight on almost everything and even strained a little too much. Next time I need to lighten the load a little bit, but Holy mackerel on my sort of day, I must say.
Sometimes with the Body Beast, I shave my head pretty regularly. Sometimes it's hard after a Body Beast workout to get the arm
You
up
can't
there.
get your arm up. Yeah, I'm like that today. I told my dad I'm almost too sore. Not quite too sore, but almost like, ooh, ah. And it's basically like those flies, whatever you do, chest flies, incline and lying on your back halfway. Those are hard for me. And I was also straining on the tricep extensions, lying on my back. Straining, like I think my form was suffering a little bit, so that's why I think I need to lighten the load a little bit. Then when I got to decline push-ups, it was just massive strain on my back. Like just, it's like everything in my body was having to push and strain. And
At that point, that's my opinion, my perfect workout. One where I'm almost
all
even failing.
maxing out.
Right, like if it calls on the last set for like 8 reps and I'm doing 7 or 6, that's almost perfect for me. And then usually I'll stick with that weight the next time I go to the point that I can actually finish it all.
I'll improve by next time, you think? I don't know.
I always aim to improve at least a little bit somehow.
I was having a retro performance a little on a couple things since last time, and I was like, what's going on here? I did this amount of weight last time. I don't know what that's all about.
Sometimes your muscles just aren't working, especially after a long weekend or something like that. But you know what, your body will remember what it's supposed to do soon enough. You'll be blasting through those numbers easy, I think.
So along these lines of muscles adapting, I've been reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's AutoBiography, and it's called Total Recall. And in the beginning of it, he's talking about his whole history in bodybuilding, how he got into it, when he started. And he mentioned that it takes about 10 years to build the perfect ideal physique.
10 years.
And in his case, he was working 5 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, which I think is insane. When I think 5 hours a day, like that's a ton. And so this prompted me to think, what if somebody wanted to do like a beast body double, where they like do 2 workouts in a day, and you have them organized in such a way so that those muscle groups do get a couple days to recover before you're back into the same thing again. Does that make sense? Like instead of doing the routine once in a week, you switch it up and alternate on given days. What do you think if someone did that?
I think if you're, far into your fitness journey and, you've already gotten pretty good gains on what you think you can accomplish already, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. Problem is that some people at the very beginning, they start seeing small results and they want those results to come faster. So they throw a second workout in. And I think that just leads to disaster, because then you open yourself more to injury and stuff like that. Pushing your body hard is good, but pushing it too hard, you're never going to recover fully. Your muscles actually don't get enough time.
Even if you're doing different muscle groups as your double?
Well, right, but if you're coming back to it too quickly, and overextending those muscles, too soon, then your muscles aren't having enough time to recover fully. They're not growing the way they should, because if you're basically every time
you're overtraining, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah,
basically.
Absolutely.
So how do those guys not overtrain? 5 hours in a day? And he's telling me what he did to like certain body parts, like his calves were lacking, and so he would just hit them extremely hard all the time. And I'm like, so how do you not? I know you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, but is it your genetic ability that allows you to do that and not be overtraining and to have gains from it, or what?
Well, at that point, those guys that are training that many hours a day, that's basically their job. And so they're putting all this extra time in nutrition and stuff like that. If you had a personal chef and a masseuse and a chiropractor at your beck and call, you could probably get away with training 2-3 hours a day. Right. But
you can cook for me and do that. I'm down for that.
All right.
So, I mean, like, without proper nutrition and sleep, there's no hope of doing that with great results.
No, you're good. You have to be dead on everything. And if you're not,
seems like it,
then your body's going to suffer instead of getting gains.
So I don't remember the name of this magazine dude back in the day who was bringing Arnold Schwarzenegger over here for the first time, but there were these guys who would hang out at Gold's Gym, and all they would do is work out, and they didn't want to have any other job or anything. They just wanted to get paid to work out. And so that guy would call them lazy bastards. And I thought that was interesting. Just because they thought, oh, we're big, so you should just pay us to be training here or something. But Arnold had initiative in business and all that, and so he showed a lot more initiative and motivation to learn business and to help out and be more productive other than I'm just working out and that's it. Thought it was interesting. 10 years though. 10 years. And I thought, wow, I've barely even scratched the surface if that's true. But we're talking about the ideal, insane, puffed up physique that could compete or something, right?
Well, and I don't necessarily feel that that's 100% true for everybody. I know some other people that are going down the Body Beast road and done it, maybe 2 or 3 years at this point, and they're already competing and winning competitions and stuff like that. So I do think it's possible.
Your individual circuit. He said he was 6 years into it, but when you're competing in Mr. Universe and like the big,
well, and that might be a different story. Maybe some of these guys are competing more locally. So maybe that makes a difference. But I do know for the fact that there's this one guy, Kobe, and every time I see him at an event, he looks bigger.
Oh, really?
Because he's constantly doing Body Beast round after round. And he's gotten to the point that he's competing and winning, on stage, pretty much every time he goes out.
So on my third round, let's say I had nutrition very well dialed in. I wonder if I could double it up and heal properly, or would I be overtraining, or like 2 workouts a week, not every 48 hours repeating the muscle group. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And, I think you still might want to vary what you're doing a little bit and not going back to the same workouts within a given week.
Yeah.
That way you're training the same muscles a little bit differently, because you can train your pecs, for instance, but if you're training just the middle portion or just the upper portion, that you might be overtraining certain parts of it. So you might be able to get away with that as long as you're varying what exercises you're doing enough.
Right. Speaking of variation, what Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying reminded me of the idea of what I was hearing Tony Horton talk about, and that's muscle confusion. Like, because of the way the muscle will adapt and just get used to what you're doing, then you have to throw something at it where it's like, whoa, to get it to keep like getting sore and synthesizing new muscle and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of reason why a lot of these really expert practitioners make sure that they're doing some amount of cardio, that they have like stretching and yoga in their routines and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, dude, I have been slacking on size a little bit because I took the weekend off because I said I wanted to have like a thorough rest before I jumped back into Body Beast, and then like I strained so hard yesterday that I felt like the middle of the back of my neck or spine was like, ow. And I was like, oh, take it easy, take it easy. And my daughter came over today, so I haven't had the chance. But my intention is to keep following through with that and do all 7. I know I should stay on the schedule and stuff, but my intention is still to follow through and do all of them.
Well, and,
in the beginner schedule.
With any workout, I really don't think it's a matter of making sure that you follow the schedule, verbatim. If you have a family event, you have a weekend, or you have a few days that throw you off, just pick up where you left off,
I hear you.
And I think exactly what you're doing is what I always recommend to people anyways.
And honestly, I don't like to do that with Body Beast. I'm just like, what's on the schedule? I want to do it. I don't want to miss that. But cardio is a little different. And I'm also still concerned, like, well, if I'm doing too much cardio, I know it makes me feel good, but am I going to be slowing my muscle growth by doing that? It's a concern of mine.
And, I think you might to a certain extent, but I know you're also looking to be cutting body fat at the same time, so having some amount of cardio is good for you.
So after our clean eating experiment, I've been stuffing my face again. But I experimented with a different pasta this week. I don't know if it's better for me. It was just like a spinach variety instead of conventional spaghetti variety. And I was like, dang, that's good. So I'm willing to try new stuff. Although last week I thought about what you said, where you make like spaghetti out of zucchini. And I was like, I don't know. But maybe I should try that. Making a zucchini noodle and
You know, if you don't try it soon
Throw in the
enough, I'll just
flavor
bring
on
some over one of these nights and just
Say,
make
put
you
your
try
sauce on it. Okay. And we'll sauce it up and all that stuff. There's one topic I wanted to discuss with you because you have an interesting insight with certain things. And I was hearing about this comedian lady this week who went viral because she made like a 5-minute video where she's basically making fun of fat people. And I was like, so people were saying she's a hater, she's fat shaming and hating on people who are fat. And I watched it and it was comical. She wasn't like super mean spirited. So the reason I wanted to ask you about fat shaming and getting into the topic of political correctness or not, isn't it true that a lot of people who are overweight may very well likely have jeopardized health? So like, what do you think of that when people fat shame and stuff?
You know, honestly, you know, anything that's kind of hateful in nature, yeah, I'm not with that. You know, that's something that's hard for me to put my mind around. But anything that's, you know, everybody that is out there as a comedian is making fun of something,
Yeah.
right? Ethnicity, about, you know, somebody's orientation, about whatever. You know, comedian, it's somewhere that hits somebody a little bit close to home. You know, I like to be able to laugh at myself, even when I was really overweight. You know, some of my favorite comedians were still fat guys that made fun of themselves, you know, for being overweight, for eating too much. And that
is it okay if you're heavy set and you're the one doing the joke shtick and stuff?
You know, honestly, when you're part of the people that's being made fun of,
yeah,
it comes across a little bit more easy. You know, whether like I said, whether it's like, you know, a black comedian making fun of, you know, their race, or somebody else making fun of fat people, you know, if it's fluffy,
mm-hmm.
you know,
it's also different, right? If a doctor is telling someone, hey, you're very much overweight, I'm worried about you, you got to lose some weight, it's different from somebody who's just hating on you because you're fat, right?
Well, and the thing about it is that somebody that's fat, they already know they're fat,
right?
And more than likely, they're in the midst of trying to change their life, or they've already tried to change their life. You know, don't really know what their story is. So just to blanket, you know, talk to everybody in the same manner, you're going to offend a lot of people.
Of course.
Now there are some set of people that, you know, like that tough love sort of attitude and want somebody to give them that kind of in your face, like, you need to lose weight, you need to get healthy.
That might be the shock that makes them change things, right?
And
some people.
And it certainly might be for some people. But I think because a lot of times being overweight has to do with emotional issues, or like that's the background of it, making fun of somebody for that or shaming them because of that, it actually, I think, does more damage in those cases, you know, puts them in a position where, like, you know, why even bother? And a lot of people give up at that point.
So let's flip the scenario a little bit and talk about skinny shaming, something I know a little bit about for the last 25 years of my life. Starting in high school, and girls would be like, Paul's cute, but he's small. He needs to be bigger. And even as soon as last fall, when I was in the bar with my friend, and he's like, hey, you want to hook up with my friend Paul? And she's like, no, I date bigger guys. Meh. But like, I didn't take it too personally. I'm used to that, and I've always sort of combated it by putting a guitar in my hands and saying my waist is awesome skinny, and I look amazing with a guitar. But like, it happens to skinny people too. However, you can't associate health issues with being skinny the same way you can with being obese, right?
Not necessarily. I definitely.
Well, I mean, someone who's anorexic, there's healthy skinny.
There's healthy skinny, but I definitely have some friends that are, they call it skinny fat. You know, somebody that still has, you know, a midsection that's, you know, they got a gut on them or something like that, but otherwise they're, you know, at a healthy BMI according to, you know, those sort of standards. But they eat like crap,
garbage,
and they're drinking soda all day long, and their underlying health numbers are
They could be like heart attack city or cardiac arrest or stroking out or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and those skinny people could be smoking cigarettes too.
Lots of stuff. So.
You never know. But on average, statistically, what would you hypothesize that which is worse?
Obviously, being overweight. There's so many.
Obviously.
Well, no, there's so many disease states that are like directly
related
to it.
Right.
Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, pretty much any permanent bad thing that you can do to your body, joint damage, etc. All of it can, be linked back to being overweight.
Interesting. And well, yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. People, I still tend to see an overreaction. Like there was the comedian I was telling you about. She said what she said, and then this thread on Facebook was like, "You are a expletive C word." Buh. It was dumping on her heart. And I said, "Do you realize how hateful what you just said is, and that essentially you're objecting to her, and you might be right about your objection, but your overreaction is so hostile and vulgar that are you really better and sexist?" Moreover, it was like, so you combated her being a fat shamer by being totally sexist and saying the worst possible thing you could say to a woman or something.
Well, and honestly,
who's just trying to be funny. I didn't take her as being mean-spirited. She was just super goofy about it.
And honestly, coming back with something like that, it doesn't do anybody anyways. You're going to create division. You're going to create hard feelings, and that the person on the other end that's receiving that. As soon as you start with the expletive, even if you have well thought out, sentences after that state why she shouldn't have done it, et cetera, your point's pretty much invalid at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Not that I don't identify with the horrible people out there, because in the past, when I was younger especially, if you pissed me off, I would take everything mean I could think of and throw the kitchen sink at you. I got kicked out of a bar once for cussing too loud. I was a little bit drunk and stuff, and he didn't, the heavy set manager didn't bother to say, "Excuse me, can you calm down?" He just came up and grabbed my food and said, "Get out." And so I reacted with enormous hostility and was like, "You fat bastard, you're going to die. Screw you," or something, but a lot worse than that even. And so that was seriously way over 10 years ago, but thinking about it now, I'm not perfect, but does it mean I deserve to lose my job because I make an off-color, well, super really nasty sewage insult toward a very inconsiderate man? My mom was there too, and she was like, "I didn't even realize that was happening." But I just recounted that. Can you imagine? That was me. I got kicked out. I was with Greco at the time. And,
oh, yes.
And yeah, I would get drunk in bars, and I would just be like swearing my head off. And people say it's like a drunken sailor. I'm more like the worst character on Deadwood. The way I've been known to talk like that, and I'm a lot more even keel than I used to be, but I'm like a drunken sailor when I'm drunk. Not to be redundant, and I say a lot of bad words, and the worst things you can imagine come pouring out of my mouth. So if I'm in a family restaurant, all I'm saying is I was probably wrong to be drunk and yelling all that vulgarity.
Yeah, usually when
at my young age,
I'm at that point, you're probably more likely to get a hug than a curse word out of me. So
I don't think I've heard you say the F word since I've reconnected with you. Well, you told me once when your kid was little and you said something to him, but that was it. Food. Oh, no, not that F word. I've heard you say that.
Fun, fabulous.
The 4-letter F word. We know what we're talking about.
Fire truck.
But, well, this was kind of an interesting conversation. Is there anything else you would like to say? Give a shout out or, tell a joke?
Hey, how about shout out for Taylor Swift? We went to concert Saturday night with
oh yeah, how was that?
My daughter and my wife. That was a phenomenal concert. Now, the concert itself, the music was good. As the engineer in me, I totally got geeked out. She had the best stage that I've ever seen in terms of like the hydraulics and stuff. I
like that production stuff.
And then the other production thing, she had every single person in the entire arena got like this LED type bracelet that was
part of the show,
synced to the music.
Oh, really?
And it would go off on different colors, and and the person next to you might be blinking red while you're blinking blue or something like that, and the floor people might be
Did you have to
blinking.
give that back when you were done?
No. And not only that,
Wow.
but they had like a kill switch it after the fact. So every time you like tap it, now it changes to a different color and like just flashes.
So you got to
green
keep it, and it's still. Does
Right.
it react to the music you're listening to, or something?
No, it doesn't anymore. I think it was very concert specific, and I think honestly, there's like a programmed kill switch in there. My thought is, I wonder if you took it to another Taylor Swift concert, would it start blinking
Oh.
again?
My thought was, did Taylor develop that idea or think of that idea? I'm imagining not.
Yeah, maybe not. But she has some creative ideas. Honestly, I think her interaction.
So you were
with
with just
fans.
your daughter or your whole family? or-
No, my daughter and my wife.
Oh, okay.
And so they're definitely more into Taylor Swift than I am. But honestly, it was a good concert experience.
I'm plenty into Taylor Swift. I mean, like, I don't need to buy her album to be into her, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I watched her on Tonight Show, and I can't help but crush on that. Almost saying some sexist, mean stuff. Just because I'm jealous and insecure that I don't have someone like that by my side to make me feel like $1,000,000. Yeah. She's talented, though. I dig that about her. Musically talented.
Yeah.
I don't know if she can produce anything, but I'm just saying. I know that she can sing, dance, and do the whole routine. I'm just saying, can she hit record and come up with cool stuff on her own, or does she need some guy who's like, here's the song, let me show you? Because I know Britney needs that. Madonna probably needs that. Lady Gaga doesn't need that.
Well, I know she writes most of her own music and her own, lyrics
really?
and everything. So
She might be able to pull it off. I'd like to see that. Seriously, I'm not joking. I have a new level of respect when people have that ability.
Well, just message her
So-
and see if you can't get invited to
Hey.
the next recording session.
You know what? She needs to prove herself not to anyone else but me. And then, like, I already respect her. I've seen her perform and stuff. I just get carried away by pretty girls, carried away with insecurity, specifically. Anyhow, right now, I do not have any, whatchamacallit going.
Groups?
Challenge groups. No, I have to determine when I'm going to start a new one, and then I'll let you know. But this, I want to thank you for coming, Brian.
We're going to have a size challenge group coming up towards the end of September. So
Okay,
be ready
then.
for that one.
Yes. Join that with us if you would like. This is FitSpaz Radio. I'm Paul, the producer. That's Brian Rucker, Coach Rokies. Go to fitspaz.com, and I hope you enjoyed this. And lastly, everybody, music provided by Kevin MacLeod. Sayonara.
Good.
Yeah. What was the best part?
Was when I found one of my friends out at least.
Oh, nice.
Recess?
I like recess.
All right, my darling. You got to go upstairs and go night-night.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, yes, yes,
No.
yes, 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 yes,
No,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes, 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 yes.
No. 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 No.